Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in. I'm trying out y'all today so as not to get too repetitive with my greetings. Who knows, I might come out of this quarantine with a Texas accent. We'll see what happens. All sorts of things could change over the course of time. Hey, while we're in the middle of this, we are having to do things, experience things that are so different. We're using muscles that we've never used before. Sometimes literally, last week I'm doing this physical fitness challenge, and one of the exercises I had to do on one of the days last week as a warm-up was 200 jumping jacks. I'm not sure I've ever done 30 jumping jacks in a row, much less 200. And the next day I got out of bed and my calves were screaming. It hurt to walk. And I realized, oh man, it was those jumping jacks. And sure enough, I tried out a jumping jack and yeah, that was it. I was using muscles that I've not normally used before. I think the same is true for us in all sorts of ways. One of the things that I've been thinking about are the muscles that we are using and needing to try out when it comes to discipling our families and ourselves, and taking ownership of our own spiritual health and taking ownership of the spiritual health of those in our family, our children. How do we disciple our kids all of a sudden? We're doing all sorts of new things, muscles being used that we're not used to using. And I want to tell you, that's a really good thing. It's painful, it's awkward, it's challenging. We don't know how to do a lot of the things that we're having to do and wrap our minds around right now. But I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we're challenged to use muscles that we've never used before. So I just want to touch on one of those. It's really, in the grand scheme of your life right now, it's just one of the things, and one of the ways that you're having to use some muscles. And that's with the live stream that we're doing every week, and then the living room worship. I've had some people talk to me and ask me about, like, how do we do that as a family? What's protocol here? What should we expect of our kids? When it comes to live stream, this is meant to provide a point of contact and some sense of normalcy for all of us. That's why we're doing it live right now, to give us the sense that we're connected to what's happening right now at 10 a.m. on Sundays, and to try to create an experience that it sort of feels like we're all together. Here's the thing, it's not going to feel that way. It's not going to replace actually getting together and worshiping together as a church and as a body. So for some of you, you're like, you know what, that's just not for me. I've tried it and it's just not working for me. You know what, that's okay. I just hope and pray that you find ways that you're growing in your relationship with Jesus and following after Jesus in this really weird, challenging, difficult, unique time that does have its opportunities. Maybe for you, the live stream's not working. You don't really feel connected. You don't feel like it's setting you up for a worshipful experience, and that's totally okay. Find something else that works for you. However, if the live stream is something that you're committed to, that you and your family, you want to participate in, then I want to encourage you to really lean into it. Maybe even physically. You know, we're used to watching TV, leaning back on the couch and so forth. Maybe sit up, lean into it. Demonstrate for your kids, show your kids what it looks like to participate in however ways that you can, through singing, through taking notes, through leaning forward and listening and participating in that way. Let me talk about the kids real quick when it comes to this live stream. This is just from my experience, and so you need to do what works for your family. One of the things that this live stream can turn into is this big, huge disciplinary issue, right? Hey kids, as a family, we're all going to sit in front of this live stream, and then our kids get anxious and restless, and they start horsing around, and we're trying to discipline, and pretty soon what was meant to be this worshipful family experience just turns into screaming and weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's not what this is for. So I would encourage you to encourage your kids to participate, to say, hey, come do this with us, but don't make them. One thing to consider is to allow them to be there with you and present during this live stream, but maybe they want to color, or maybe they want to read, or maybe they even want to do something creative on the floor, like play with Lego or with dolls or whatever it is that they enjoy doing, something that's quiet. That, in fact, a lot of people learn that way by doing something with their hands. They're listening and they're still absorbing that information. So encourage them to participate with you, but don't make them. In fact, I would encourage you to treat this as something that's for you, that you're inviting your kids into. And if they choose not to participate, or if they're being unruly, then ask them to leave the room, but understand that this is not something that you're forcing your kids to do. This is something that is for you, and you're hoping that your kids join you in that. Let me talk about living room worship. Living room worship is that time at the end of the live stream on Sunday mornings where we pass it off to you, where we equip you with a guide, a short guide online for you to continue the worship service in your home. My hope is that you take advantage of that and do that. And there's all sorts of ways that you can engage in that. We're trying to include ideas and discussion questions for your kids. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, this might be a lot easier for you, and it's definitely something is for you. It's for your spiritual growth and development. It's a way for you to focus on Jesus for a little while longer on that Sunday morning, and then at a later time do something with your kids using the kids guide that we're going to provide for you. Or maybe during that living room worship time, you want to kind of mix the two and supplement some of the things that we have in the living room worship guide with the kids guide. And here's the deal, from my experience, if you get your kids to sit down with you for living room worship for 5 to 10 minutes, that's a win. Most of the time, when we sit down and try to do something like this with our kids, it's often chaos rather than what we would call success. And that is okay. You need to cut yourself some slack. You need to cut your kids some slack and not take yourself too seriously. Again, don't let this develop into a disciplinary issue. Persist in it just because it didn't work out or things weren't working, and you tried to sit down with your kids and they weren't paying attention, and you're trying to lead them in this, you're trying to be a good parent and all of these things, and they're squirming around. It's okay to go, you know what, this is all right. Let's just play together and we'll try this later. And maybe you can be creative with some of the content and pepper it in during more natural times like meal times or at bedtime. Small ways that you can take advantage of those times to disciple your kids. But bottom line is, if your kids aren't interested in the live stream or in living room worship, you're not a bad parent. But persist with them, continue to pursue them with the love of Jesus in patience and peace and grace and love. You are in the process of using muscles that you've not used before. You are in the process of creating new rhythms for your family. And who knows, some of those rhythms might extend beyond what we're experiencing right now through this quarantine. And I think that's a good thing. So I encourage you to press on. I love you guys, and thanks for tuning in.